I need to reflect on the last 2 years. Yeah, last year, 2023. 2022 was bad. 2023 just continued. They talk about like Saturn return when you're like 28, 29, and I feel like that happened to me. Everything crumbled. But mainly in this video, I wanted to talk about losing my job at the age of 30. Like, that for me just seems backwards. Like, I've never lost my job before, never been made redundant, never been fired. It's always been my choice. I've always been in control. Yeah, it was quite a slap in the face to not have the choice. And I think everyone goes through that when they lose their job. For me, my company went bankrupt, so everyone lost their job, which was also an interesting scenario because everyone dealt with it differently and everyone went through the same thing. Following on from that, you can see where people went and how they made better lives for themselves. It's how some people just jumped quickly into a new job, whereas others took a lot longer to even process what was happening. And I definitely was part of that side of the company where I was in denial really and just hoping things would get better and believing that this couldn't really be happening. There were some red flags whereby we weren't getting paid on time. There were some delays in payroll, so maybe a week would pass and we still hadn't received our pay, but it would come. And then pay didn't come. And then a few months passed and we were paid on time. However, again, pay was late. We were told, oh, it's coming next week. It's hitting our bank the week after. No, it's coming next week. It's coming in 2 weeks, for sure. And then by this point, months were passing. And people were getting angry and angrier. Other people had kids, families, like mortgages to pay. It started getting really ugly. The atmosphere was horrific in terms of like people arguing and shouting at each other and trying to find someone to blame. The senior management just sort of jumped ship and sort of left the lower down people to sort of fend for themselves. It was like such a eye-opening thing to witness when, you know, everyone just protects themselves, obviously, and the C-level senior management who obviously have their fingers in many pies and it's not their only business venture, they just see it as business. Like, they don't see it as people behind the business and people's lives who are affected. So their decisions actually impacted people's lives really negatively. Like, imagine people could lose their houses if they can't pay their mortgage, if they can't pay their rent. It was serious. However, I was still positive and I was thinking, this can't last forever. Hopefully, you know, there's a silver lining. We'll be okay. Like I said, I was definitely one of the people who was in denial because certain people, immediately when we weren't getting paid, they had already looked for another job and they already secured another job. I was silly and I stayed till the end. It got to the point where so many people had left, like senior management, that there wasn't actually anyone to fire me in the end. So I wasn't getting paid, but I was technically still employed and there was no one in the office at this point. It was a really messy situation when lawyers then had to get involved, insolvency lawyers who deal with bankrupt businesses, and they end up becoming kind of your point of contact. They need to investigate, but they're not really your manager, obviously. I also find it hard to talk about this because I feel like I've probably like blanked a lot of it out. It was just such a messy time. And I was also just renovating my apartment at that point and had a lot of money coming out and it was tight. It was really tight. Luckily I had savings, so I was surviving off that, but it was dwindling away. And it got to the point where I was like, what do I do? And in the end, I asked the insolvency lawyers and I remember. I signed up at the Agentur for Arbeit, but this must have been like maybe 5 months after my first not getting paid date. So it took me a while to do it. I should have done it a lot sooner, but like I said, denial. I went there and I actually couldn't get my social security Now, I feel really blessed to be in Germany for this because of the social security system that we have here. When you have a full-time job, you're paying into a pot that is your social security. If you ever lost your job, you would then have money to survive. And you actually get 60% of your pay for a certain amount of time. I think you have to be working at least 1 year to be able to be eligible for this, eligible to like pay into it. So I was looking for these social security payment as I wasn't getting any pay. And also to apply for my insolvency money because the state actually covers 3 months of pay if you didn't get paid because your company went bankrupt. So my back pay. They couldn't give me any of this without my Arbeitsbescheinigung, which is like a notification of your work status that I was unemployed, that I had been let go from the company. But no one had actually fired me. Looking back, the kindest thing would be to fire us all, but no, they just sort of, like I said, let us fend for ourselves. I have to say there were points when we were in the office, we obviously couldn't afford lunch and things like that. So we would bring all the ingredients in and make these gorgeous like communal meals and have a lovely lunch together and end up only paying like €1 or €2 once you split it between so many people. So we were having these great lunches together, cooking in the kitchen. But yeah, it kind of felt like squat vibes in the office by that point. But there were no managers, it was just us kind of thinking what's going on and supporting each other how we could. Yeah, the kindest thing would have been to fire us, because then we would have got this document that we needed. However, I did not have this document, so I couldn't get my payments. I was in such a tricky situation. It was like I was in prison, in a like career prison of some sort. In the end, when I got through to the insolvency lawyers, their only suggestion was to quit myself, which, as you probably know, changes things. If you quit yourself, you then have to wait 3 months for your social security money. And so I was terrified of that. I was like, well, I can't quit myself because I can't wait 3 months. Yeah, in the end, because it was like exceptional circumstances, I was able to quit myself. It was such a strange feeling, like going to the office, putting my resignation in the letterbox because there was literally no one there. Oh, it was such a mad time thinking back now. I'm like just remembering like, oh, I forgot. Yeah, also another red flag, like a warning sign, was there were redundancies that were made just before we stopped getting paid. And I remember I had to fire someone from my team, which felt horrific and wasn't a nice thing to do at all. In the end, those people who were fired, it was a blessing because they got their document straight away. If they were in Germany, they were legally unemployed and could get their social security money. However, the ones who were left behind, who thought they were lucky, actually became more unlucky by not having this document and going through all this saga. A lot of people went down like the legal route in terms of like trying to sue the company for not paying and for the damages they'd caused. Yeah, there were situations of like people who were on maternity leave who like technically couldn't get fired. So that was, yeah, a minefield for certain people who, yeah, I just can't believe it. Like people with kids and stuff, it must have been even worse. The stress of it. Honestly, like I feel like my mind is like doing like massive blanks and then I'm like suddenly remembering things. Honestly, I've put this stuff to the back of my head, deep down in a box. I thought I was protected. I was feeling a bit big-headed because I was like, I've got legal insurance. Great, I'm protected. So I think that's also what kept me in denial for so long. I was like, yeah, I can ride this out. I'll be fine. I've been paying this legal insurance through Get Safe that protects your job, like any employment issues. So I thought, amazing, I can get my money back. I can get more than, I can, completely rip them to shreds. I go to my lawyer. They do write me a couple letters, like sort of demanding the pay, which they do for you. It's called a Mahnung. So that was covered, which was great, because obviously I would have had to pay for that. But in the end, it was all sort of pointless, because as soon as the company declared bankruptcy, there was nothing the lawyers could do to help me, which I didn't realise. So that was just end of. So I paid that insurance all that time for nothing. I mean, it's always the way with insurances, isn't it? And I think other people who maybe don't have private insurances and went through other means by like more like public lawyers, I think they're still dealing with some charges that like going to court and things where they didn't in the end need to go to court. Oh, it's messy stuff, but in the end the lawyer didn't really have any benefit to it other than giving me some sort of proof that I wasn't getting paid that I could show to the Agentur for Arbeit. Let's just say 5 months I didn't get paid because like I said, I didn't have this document that I needed, and I would have had to wait a long time to get that document through the bankruptcy process. The company should have declared bankruptcy so much earlier so that we could be protected, but they didn't, and then everything was delayed. It takes time, and in the end I got my German friend to ring and on my behalf and just explain the situation and say that I desperately needed the money. And luckily I had a nice person on the other end of the line who, put my application forward and processed it for me, and it wasn't just like lingering, not dealt with. So from May I've been protected and I've been getting my payments, so I get 60% of my pay. But that just had a massive domino effect on my life, because then, that new apartment that I bought, like, I couldn't afford it anymore by myself, and that changed things. I just got that place and kitted it all out with new kitchen, new floor, new furniture. That's a story for another time, but I'm just trying to show how it had an effect. So now here we are. I've been looking for jobs, and as time has obviously passed since I started my job, and since I started my first ever job and second job, and 10 years ago, my job role doesn't really exist anymore. I started out as a photo editor or a photo curator, photo researcher. That's what it was called. If I type that into LinkedIn now, or at any job site, no results. Like, I feel like I now have to kind of like reinvent myself. I can do a lot of different jobs, my role obviously wasn't just one thing. I did a bit of project management, I've done production, I've done photo research and art direction and trend forecasting. I'm just applying for all of these different roles, but honestly, the job climate at the moment, I don't feel passionate about any of these companies that I'm seeing, and it just kind of feels like, what is the point? Like, why, again, go work for another company who would just screw you over? And to be honest, spending 4 years doing a job, like all the time and energy spent into that, and then it just all fell apart. Now, yes, the company may exist in a different form if it gets bought, but still, it feels like so irrelevant. Then you start to think, like, is this a good use of my time? Obviously, though, we need to earn a living. It's such a clash between like my purpose and earning money. Like, I need to earn money to survive, but to do what I have been doing is so soul destroying that I just can't bring the motivation to the job. I'd feel very, I don't know, like, I only have one life, and if your life is spent nurturing someone else's corporate capitalist dream, what kind of life is that? However, if I wanted to change and actually do something meaningful and maybe retrain as a role to be of service to others and be part of the community and feel like I'm nurturing my calling, that costs money which I don't have because I'm unemployed, and I don't have the time to suddenly start a complete new career path. I need to earn money instantly. Now, I did start to retrain as a nutritional therapist during the pandemic, and I spent a lot of money on a course that I never completed. I got halfway through, I ended up going through a big breakup. I had to move back home, everything just went on pause, and I had to find a new apartment back in Berlin, and all my energy was spent there and all my money. And then this happened with the job, so then I had to refocus on that, and then again rejuggle accommodation due to finances and relationship status. We're gonna go. I'm just looking at my doggo. We're gonna go. Come. Yeah, we're gonna go. Yeah, we're gonna go for our little evening walk when I finish this video. One good blessing of this year. My baby boy. Anyway, due to all those points listed, didn't complete the course. And I've just had a look into like what would happen if I restarted it, and the amount of money it would cost. Like, I can't believe the email I got today, and I'm just thinking like, but I don't have the money to be able to do that. So I feel like so stuck. Like I've tried, actually, I've already tried to change directions and do something more that I care about and something that I'm passionate about. And life got in the way. And then now when I do have the time to be able to do that course whilst I'm not working, I'm sort of barred from it as well. And I just feel like so disillusioned that it's like just everything's like a money making scheme. And it's just, I feel like everyone's just like extracting from everyone else, and I don't know, I'm just feeling the brunt of it at the moment, of just like depletion. And I'm trying to think of abundance and calling in good things into my life, but just the world around us is just like so difficult at the moment. And I know that everyone is feeling the struggle, and I know I have to acknowledge that I'm in a good position compared to others. And I know that you can always say there's others worse off, and there's so many horrible things going on in the world that I have to be thankful and grateful for what I have. And I am. I feel like your trajectory as you grow should be to grow. But the world outside is not nurturing that. Like, it's just like a constant battle, and like the cost of living is insane at the moment. Like how much food is costing, and I don't need to explain this because you know this. The feeling is a bit of where to go. I have done interviews, and even getting those interviews has been a struggle. And when I have, I've kind of got through to a few rounds, and then I've been just rejected in getting these automated mails that have loads of mistakes and then loads of typos. I'm just like, I'm dealing with robots here, I feel like. And even now, post-pandemic, like all these interviews are done remotely, like over video call, and I feel like it's so much harder to like have a true strong connection with the person who's interviewing you. Obviously it's nice, but like there's just no feeling anymore behind it, and I'm really struggling with that. But there we go. I've had probably like, I'm gonna say 8 interviews so far, which haven't been successful. I've done like a case study, put a lot of time and energy, and then just rejections. So I'm 30, I'm unemployed, and I'm thinking, what is going on here? Like, this should be the time where you start a family and buy a house and settle and make roots and feel like you know what you want to do. Like you really find your true calling, but that's not the case. I feel like I'm in a worse position now at 30 than I was at age 20. My baby boy dog is crying at me, and I gotta go. I will keep you posted on the journey, and we got to start from the bottom to get to the top. So I'm not giving up, obviously. I'm hoping to find a happy middle ground, like a happy medium of financial abundance and purpose. Watch this space and let me know if you've been feeling at all the same. Okay, we go now. Bye.